I am excited as I stand here today about the state of Louisiana, about what we've been able to accomplish over the last 3 years. And yes, we still have some work to do. But at the bottom line, we are much better off than we were 3 years ago. I can stand here today and tell you that after years of crippling budget deficits, our state budget is stable. It's predictable. It's the kind of budget that will set us up for long-term success. But I do think it's instructive and useful sometimes to remember where we were 3 years ago. A $2 billion state general fund deficit for the first full year that I was governor that started July 1st, 2016. That's more than half of all discretionary state general fund in the state of Louisiana. And it was the largest deficit ever in our history. The budget for the year that I became governor already had $850 million in one-time money. And while my predecessor had inherited a $1.5 billion surplus, he not only left me that deficit of over $2 billion, but $3 billion had been swept from the trust funds of the state of Louisiana over those same 8 years. And despite all of that, we had cut higher education more than any other state in the nation over that time period. But we're in a better place today because we've been able to work in a bipartisan fashion to compromise. And last summer, we were able to achieve the long-term stability that we need. Stabilize funding for higher education and health care, fully meet our obligation to our kids on TOPS, fund need-based aid for higher education at an all-time high in the state of Louisiana, and still gave a tax cut to the people of Louisiana starting this fiscal year of $600 million. That's right, that $2 billion deficit has been replaced by a $300 million surplus that closed out last year, and we started this year with a $600 million tax cut. We were able to do that because our economy has improved. We have more people working, making more money, more businesses, more profitable than even the economists had forecasted. Already, credit rating agencies have removed the state from the negative watch list. Last year alone, we announced 47 major economic development projects across 31 different parishes. Since 2016, the project wins we've announced are delivering more than $33 billion in capital investment in Louisiana, creating 27,000 new permanent jobs and retaining more than 21,000 existing jobs all across the state of Louisiana. Today in our great state, more than 2 million people are employed, almost an all-time high. The all-time high was actually hit in April of 2018, but we're very close to being there again. The state's gross domestic product, our GDP, which is how you measure the size of an economy, is $250 billion today, the highest in the history of the state of Louisiana. Our economy is bigger than it has ever been today, and it is growing faster than all but 2 other states in the southeast region of our country. We all know that manufacturing is the engine of a successful economy. That's certainly true here in Louisiana, and we're proud that the manufacturing workforce in our state is #1 in the United States as measured by the value they add to production, and that comes from the U.S. Census Bureau. This is precisely why we have worked so hard to create a balanced approach to the Louisiana Industrial Tax Exemption Program. Today, after changes that we made, ITEP delivers an 80% exemption for up to 10 years to manufacturing companies who commit themselves to invest in our state and to create jobs in our state, or at least have a compelling narrative about retaining jobs in our state. Before I became governor, for decades, this operated as an automatic 10-year, 100% exemption, unilaterally given by the state, even though not a single dollar of the taxes being exempted would have otherwise gone into the treasury of the state. They all come from local government, every single dollar. That is why I thought it was imperative to give local government, including police juries and parish councilmen, a seat at the table so you can determine for yourself whether you think that project warrants that exemption. I think it's the right thing to do to partner with local government, the people who are closest to the constituents all across the state of Louisiana, and to give them a seat at that table. And we're going to stick to the core principles of those changes to the ITEP program: accountability, jobs, and yes, local input. And by the way, that's the way the ITEP functions all across the country. We were the outlier. And what we found out was we couldn't afford 100% for 10 years because we know on day one that that facility goes into operation, they create demands, whether it is on education, public safety, infrastructure, you name it. And so by bringing those entities onto the tax rolls for 20%, that will help you, that will help your school boards, that will help law enforcement in your parishes. It's just the right thing to do. And by the way, not only could we not afford it, it wasn't necessary to be competitive. Years before I was governor, Louisiana Economic Development did a study, and we knew that at 80%, we would still have one of the most generous programs in the country, and we would still attract all of the investment that we were getting in Louisiana. But we could do it in a more responsible, more balanced fashion that allows you to meet the demands of your constituents. So I'm proud of the changes that we've made. I will continue to work with all stakeholders as we work together to perhaps change the process a little bit, but those core principles are not going to go away so long as I am governor and your seat at the table is secure. You know, we have the best workforce in the entire country. For 9 years in a row, Fast Start, which is an LED workforce development program, has been graded out nationally as the #1 workforce development program in the country. Every single economic development project we've been able to land is in part because CEOs across the country and across the world know if they invest in Louisiana, they will have the educated, skilled, trained workers that they need to be successful. And by the way, we want those workers to be our Louisiana citizens, which is why it was imperative that we stop cutting higher education year after year after year. And I am so proud that for the last 2 years, we have fully stabilized state general fund support for our higher education institutions, all of our four-year institutions and all of our community and technical colleges, so that we create opportunity in Louisiana for Louisianans. We're also taking innovative approaches to Louisiana's long neglected infrastructure. We're doing things that haven't been done before. We're aggressive in seeking grant opportunities from the federal government. When other states don't have projects for the money that's been sent to them and they have to send it back, we reach out and grab as much of that as we can. We're looking at public-private partnerships. In fact, we have one going on right now, the first one in our history to deliver infrastructure in Louisiana. We also are making sure that we're taking advantage of other opportunities like Garvey bonds, where we can bond out 10% of our transportation trust fund revenue coming from the federal government for 12 years and deliver some of those high capacity projects that otherwise you will never be able to do. Things such as widening I-10 in Baton Rouge between the bridge and the split. Things like the on-ramp and off-ramp off of I-20 into Barksdale Air Force Base. And things like the flyover to connect I-10 in Kenner to the new billion-dollar terminal that comes online for the New Orleans airport in May. That's how you move Louisiana forward. And we're being very creative and very aggressive in doing that. But we should never forget We are more resource constrained than we would like to be. Our gas tax is 30 years old. It's 16 cents today. It was 16 cents 30 years ago. Last year, DOTD put up 308 projects for bid. That's a total of 820 miles all across the state of Louisiana. And one thing that you will have noticed about me, while we came into office and we faced that largest budget deficit ever, the portion of the State Transportation Trust Fund that goes to the parishes has not been reduced by a penny, even though it is twice as much as the Constitution requires. And the reason is, I told you before I became governor that when I became governor, I would not balance the budget of the state on the backs of local government, and I have not done it. I'm also excited to tell you that we're in the midst of implementing the most comprehensive bipartisan criminal justice reform in the state's history, using evidence-based reforms focusing on nonviolent, non-sex offenders, and approaches that have worked in other states across the country and across the South. And we're already seeing good results here in Louisiana. And we actually were disciplined enough last year to deliver upon our promise to reinvest 70% of our savings into the criminal justice system to ensure that our reentry programs are going to work, to make sure that more people have education and training, substance abuse treatment, mental health treatment, so that they will be successful when they reenter society, because this is what we know. 95% of the people who are in prison are going to get out. And every time someone gets out unsuccessfully, you create at least one new victim of crime. And by the way, I'm very proud to tell you that what we did in Louisiana, I was able to share with the president in New Jersey this past summer for 2 hours, and then he eventually signed into law a federal act that mirrors what we did here in Louisiana. And by the way, I think it's imperative that the governor of our state, whoever that happens to be, works well with the president and the cabinet and the Congress and our congressional delegation, whoever that happens to be, because that is the only way to put Louisiana first. And that is what I told you I would do when I ran for governor. Already, Louisiana has shed its title. And I'm the first governor in decades who can stand and say this. We do not have the nation's highest incarceration rate today. And I'm proud of that. Now, I don't want to oversell it. We're number 2. But you got to start somewhere. You know, we also have made a change since I've been governor that I'm very proud of in terms of health care in Louisiana. On my first full day, I expanded Medicaid so that 480,000 of our working poor brothers and sisters across our state have access to health insurance. And since we've done that, we've been able to save more than $300 million in state general fund. We've cut the uninsured rate by more than half to the lowest point ever in the history of the state of Louisiana. And we are not just saving money, we are literally saving lives. And the money we are getting from the federal government is being invested in every community across the state of Louisiana. And unlike other states across the South, we have not had a single rural hospital closure in the state of Louisiana. Now, how can it be that we can save $300 million when you insure an additional 480,000 people? Well, it's this simple. An uninsured person goes to the hospital, it costs the state 40 cents on the dollar for that care. But we can insure them through the Medicaid program for no more than 10 cents. And the 40 cents comes from the general fund where we were short. The 10 cents comes from a statutory dedication that we wouldn't have but for the fact that we expanded Medicaid. So I will tell you again, the easiest big decision that I will ever make as governor was to expand Medicaid. The same Catholic Christian faith that leads me to be pro-life on the issue of abortion tells me that the Medicaid expansion is a pro-life position too, and we are saving lives across the state of Louisiana because of it. You know, we had the last Restore meeting this morning. Unfortunately, 2016 was a tough year, not just because of the budget deficit, but because 56 of our 64 parishes were declared major federal disasters. And you know this because you are those parishes across the state of Louisiana because of the floods in March and in March and August of 2016. And I will tell you that while it takes longer to deliver those housing recovery programs than you would want, by every relevant metric, the Restore Louisiana Disaster Housing Recovery Program has been delivered faster than any other housing program in the history of the United States. And I am proud of that, but we still have work to do. For example, we're still waiting on HUD to interpret and apply a change that Congress made in legislation last October relating to the duplication of benefits problems that is preventing individuals who obtained or at least applied for a small business administration loan of getting the CDBG grant dollars that we believe they should be entitled to. We expect that that guidance is going to come from HUD sometime in the next couple of months. And I hope that it gives us relief so that those individuals can access those dollars that will help them to recover. And I know there was some discussion here earlier this morning about community development block grant funding for hazard mitigation, $1.2 billion that Congress did appropriate. And by the way, it's been a long time. But the fact of the matter is, HUD has yet to issue a Federal Register notice, which are the rules by which the states have to abide if they're going to access and spend those dollars. And until HUD issues the Federal Register notice, the state cannot issue its or submit its state action plan, which has to be approved before those dollars are available. Because those two things have to happen before that line of credit gets established in Louisiana. Now, Senator Kennedy was here and he told you that that money is available, it's here in Louisiana. He was wrong. And he's either grossly ignorant or he's deliberately lying, but he is wrong. Now, with respect to the upcoming session, I'm excited about where we are as a state. I think it's time we give teachers a pay raise. They haven't had one in 10 years. And I'll make sure that that happens this year. We're going to strengthen safety measures in K through 12 schools, because when someone sends a child to school, they should never have to fear for their safety. And we're going to make sure that we move that goal further down so that parents don't have to fear for the safety of their children. We're going to continue to fight against opioid addiction in this state, which is a tremendous problem here and around the country. We're going to work to reduce red tape for Louisiana businesses and professionals. And we're going to continue to work to spur economic growth in low-income communities. And I am confident that we're going to be able to do better going forward, because while we still have challenges, we could attack those challenges today from a position of strength, not the position of weakness that where we were 3 years ago. And I look forward to continuing to work in a bipartisan fashion so that we can craft solutions to our problems that are durable, that work. And I am committed that Louisiana never become Washington, D.C., where they don't even sit and listen to one another anymore. We're going to continue to work in a bipartisan fashion. So I'm excited. I'm ready. I'm optimistic. I want you to be as well. And I want you to know that what I fundamentally understand is every single one of your constituents is one of mine. And I cannot do my best job as governor to serve them if I'm not a good partner with you. And I will be a good partner with the Police Jury Association. So I'm excited. I'm ready. Let's go get it done. God bless you. Thank you very much.